Thanks for joining us. And I think we have about critical mass to get started. So I will share my screen.
Hi, Erin.
Hey, Helen.
Does everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Fabulous. All right. So before I officially get started, I did want to say that this meeting is being recorded and will be publicly posted on the Delta Institute website shortly after we conclude. And all the information that I go through and present today will also be available on the Delta website and in the RFP document. And I will actually post that link into the chat in case folks want to follow along with any of the information. And before we get going, I just wanted to introduce myself officially to all of you. My name is Jamie Zuris. I am a senior specialist on the programs team at the Delta Institute. I am also the program coordinator for the Hammond Green Canopy Initiative. And I will be the principal contact for the project, overseeing and coordinating the project's implementation, planning, procurement, budget, administration, and reporting. And with me on this call are my colleagues, Melina Blanc, who you might have be well familiar with all things trees in Northwest Indiana, and then Helen Hardy, our Chief Financial Officer at Delta Institute. So thank you all for joining today for our pre-proposal meeting for the project. Also, one more quick reminder, I think you guys are already all muted, but just to keep yourself muted until the Q&A session at the end. So Delta Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that collaborates with communities in the Midwest to solve complex environmental challenges. Environmental, economic, climate challenges are addressed today so that our home and region stay resilient for tomorrow. So we exist because environmental, economic, and climate issues hit communities, both big and small, through disinvestment, systemic inequity, and policy decisions. We really partner with communities on the ground at the community level to make sure that their goals on the ground are being addressed and that our partners' needs are met. So we work from big city centers to rural and farming communities across the Midwest. And we have three programmatic pillars that include resilient agriculture, sustainability and support services, and nature-based climate solutions, which is what brings us here today. So we work with municipalities to leverage investments and capture stormwater, and we focus on communities that are disproportionately affected by flooding and climate. And today we're here for a project called Hammond Green Canopy Initiative, and we're here to walk through some questions and overview of the RFP, where we're looking for a contractor or multiple contractors to submit bids on completing an urban forestry management plan and a tree inventory. So here's a brief overview of our agenda. And diving right in with some background information, Delta Institute and the City of Hammond, Parks and Recreation Department have partnered on a 2-year project that aims to enhance 3 key objectives to strengthen urban forestry in Hammond. One is the primary one focused on this RFP. So developing an urban forestry management plan for the city of Hammond, and then also doing a tree inventory for street trees and trees in Harrison Park in Hammond's 3rd district. The overall project will also be aiming to beautify Harrison Park by taking away hazardous trees and planting new trees. And a big part of the project overall is to work closely with the community and engage them in urban planning. So the project is seeking to revitalize green spaces for underserved residents and promote equitable access to nature and strengthen community resilience. These efforts are also aimed at addressing Hammond's industrial pollution challenges and social vulnerabilities. So overall, contributing to a greener and more sustainable urban development. And like I mentioned before, the RFP bids for today's discussion are primarily focused on objectives 1 and 3 here. So you all will have the opportunity to respond to the scope of work for just the urban forestry management plan, just the tree inventory, or a combination of the two. So diving into the first scope of work for the urban forestry management plan, the selected contractor will be in charge of the creation of the plan, which will include recommendations to the city of Hammond on urban forestry goals for the city. A big part of it, as I previously mentioned, will be engaging in a robust community outreach process. And the plan is really aiming to set the foundation for Hammond's forestry efforts moving forward, since there is no forestry management plan currently. Our maximum budget for this scope is $49,800, excuse me. And we have a 12-month work period scoped out. So work must be completed by January 31st, 2026. We're also super excited and lucky that we'll have the opportunity to partner with Indiana University's Environmental Resilience Institute, where we're going to be getting to work with a green infrastructure fellow and support from a community engagement specialist on some of the community outreach efforts, as well as some of the data and assessment information. We will also be working with the resource group to work on a tree canopy assessment for the community. And the contractor that's selected for this scope will be coordinating with the full project team to incorporate the canopy assessments and GIS work and community engagement into the overall plan. And I will also note that Delta Institute and the city of Hammond has already begun drafting a community outreach strategy so that once the contractor is selected, we can hit the ground running. So a proposed outline for the management plan can be seen here, kicking off with brief overview, background of the city of Hammond, what their climate is, the geographic area, and the history of urban forestry in the area. It will also include a vision for urban forestry and green infrastructure for the city. And like I said, it will be the foundation of green infrastructure moving forward. And the vision will incorporate community input heavily. The partnership with Davie Resource Group will help inform the tree canopy assessment. And on the left-hand side of the screen here, you could see a little bit more in depth about what that will include, as well as some additional GI work analysis, GIS analysis that will be done by the GI fellow. So moving on with part 2 of the proposed outline, we want to make sure we're thorough in being inclusive of details ranging from tree selection, creating a maintenance plan, making sure it's clear who's responsible for the maintenance, who's financially responsible, and that we're tracking metrics accordingly. And the biggest thing to highlight here is that, like I said multiple times already, community engagement is going to be really important in the methodology for creating this plan. And a big part of the plan will be the recommendations and next step section to make sure that the solutions that we come up with and that the community comes up with for themselves are localized and actionable, and make sure that their priorities are met. So moving on to the second scope of work in this RFP, the tree inventory. So the selected contractor will conduct the inventory in specifically the 3rd district of Hammond, and that includes Harrison Park. It'll include street trees and the trees in the park. The budget for this is a maximum of $28,500. And it is scheduled for completion by the end of April this year. So that gives about a 2-month work period by the time the contract is awarded. And the work done in the inventory is going to help inform our tree planting initiative, which is going to take place in the summer and fall of this year, where we will be removing hazardous trees in the park and community and planting 200 healthy trees. Exciting, and will help to ensure that we're taking a holistic approach to urban forestry. One key thing to highlight here is that the inventory does have strict guidelines to follow Indiana Department of Natural Resources street tree inventory requirements, and that can be found on the IDNR website, as well as linked in the RFP document. And I can give you a quick snapshot of what that looks like here. And additional requirements for the tree inventory can be found on page 10 of the RFP document. So as I mentioned, the RFP just covers the scope and project activities for the management plan and the tree inventory, noted by the arrows here, the blue arrows. But this project timeline gives a better sense of how all the pieces of the overall project fit together, kicking off earlier this year now with stakeholder engagement, which will be a big part throughout the whole project. We will be getting support from Davie Resource Group and Indiana University early in spring, and then kick off the rest of the implementation later in the second half of 2025 and 2026. So I will be super brief on going through the RFP guidelines, since it's all included in depth in the document. We have a handy checklist to make it a little easier, but one thing I'll note here is that we're asking all bids be no longer than 10 pages. And as you submit your proposals, we are asking for one original hard copy, three total hard copies and one digital digital copy. The hard copies can be mailed to the Delta Institute office in Chicago, and the digital can be emailed to Helen Hardy at hmhardy@deltainstitute.org. And it should be labeled as the Hammond Green Canopy Initiative project. After the February 14th submission deadline, Delta Institute will evaluate each proposal, and a proposal selection committee consisting of at least 3 members will individually review all proposals to determine if they meet the requirements of the RFP. failure to meet the essential requirements of the RFP may be cause for rejection of the proposal. The committee will make independent random checks of the proposer's references and major subcontractors. And we highly encourage disadvantaged business enterprises to apply and respond to the RFP, and firms with staff that have credentials and special licenses may be considered more qualified than those that don't. So to wrap us all up with some key deadlines to keep in mind, we are accepting all questions until this Thursday at 5 p.m. end of business day. We'll respond to all questions and distribute them across the RFP pool shortly after. That gives at least 2 full weeks after that point to prepare the remainder of your submissions, with the deadline being February 14th at 5 p.m. Central Time. The week following the deadline will be the review period, and we will have an award date and project kickoff shortly after that. So I will stop presenting and open it up for questions.
Cool. Thanks for the information, the additional information there, or supportive information. I've got a list of questions, so if at any point you're just like, please email me that later, and you'll answer it in a different format, just let me know. I completely understand. So my first question is kind of just, short and to the point, but will digital signatures be accepted as part of the submission process?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I read in the RFQ that there is a 10-page max, which is cool. But in the RFQ, it says the narrative, and I'm just confirming my understanding is that all the additional forms required is not part of that 10 pages.
That is correct. Maylena and Helen, let me know if you think otherwise. Great.
This is kind of news to everybody, but kind of some of us knew that it was coming. Given the recent presidential funding adjustments, is there any update as far as the status of this project?
We do not have any update, but if something were to change, we will keep you informed as soon as possible, but we don't anticipate any changes at this time.
Yeah, cool. And then in regards to this being a federal pass-through, I believe you guys got it through the pass-through grant. Yeah, you did, because IDNR. There is Davis-Bacon Act that's attached to the grant funding, right? And in the Davis-Bacon Act, there is an acknowledgement of the potential need for prevailing wage regulations. So I'm curious, does Delta believe or anticipate that any components of this project require prevailing wage?
I don't think so, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay, it's our understanding as well, but it's just I've learned to ask in regards to all these projects, the IIA projects.
Absolutely.
This one comes up a lot in regards to DNR projects. Sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the other way. But there's mention of the need for an inventory summary report as part of the inventory process. And then, a lot of that inventory summary report can be included in the urban forestry management plan. So I guess what's Delta's perspective? Is it 2 different deliverables, inventory summary report, management plan? Or is it combined? Like, how do you anticipate the potential contractors to propose this?
I can get this one if you want, Jamie. I think the inventory report and the inventory should be a standalone document, knowing that some company might respond to only the inventory or only the urban forestry management plan, but acknowledging too that in your urban forestry management plan, you will have to incorporate the summary and the finding of your inventory, which is why in the timeline, the inventory is done on a specific date. So whoever is doing the urban forestry management plan will have time to incorporate all the elements from the inventory.
Okay, cool. Which leads into my following question. Sorry, I told you I'd have all listed out. So I did notice that April deliverables were for inventory or April was a timeline for the inventory. But what specifically is that April delivery expectation? Is it fieldwork is to be delivered, invoiced inventory fieldwork is to be delivered, inventory like inventory summary report is to be delivered? Is it the entire, like, what parts are to be delivered at the end of April?
Melina, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all parts, but there will be potentially some flexibility depending on how the project team comes together with community engagement and how it all fits together.
I agree, Jamie, and I will add that we also would like to have the inventory done when the fellow will more or less be in place. So that's why we're also asking for that.
Erin, do you have other questions or should we switch over?
I do, yes, but other people, I'll pause for a minute.
Okay, great. We'll hop over to Corbin.
Just wanted to know if you guys had a rough estimate of your guys' current inventory right now of how many trees?
I don't think we have that yet. Are you talking specifically for the 3rd district, city of Hammond? Either way, I don't think we have it. So.
Okay. No, that's good to know.
Yeah.
No, the last inventory was done a while ago, so I believe the city do not have any updated number. We can ask the park department, but I believe they don't have it.
It'd be awesome even if we just had the old inventory just to kind of get a ballpark of kind of what we're working with. And then if you guys could share that with us all, that'd be cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, we'll look into that for sure. Erin, we could hop back to you.
All right. So most of us, and you have it well shared in the RFP, know about the inventory requirements from the DNR in regards to what's minimum and what's recommended. However, I do notice that plantable spaces, I think it was, give me a minute, flip back. But yeah, plantable spaces and risk assessment normally is in the highly recommended, but not minimum requirements, but yet in your RFP, you have plantable spaces is fine. I'm more focused on the risk tree assessment part. Is all 3 maintenance needs, maintenance priority, and tree risk assessment to be separate data fields, and are all 3 absolutely needed?
You know, I might have to double check on that and get back to you for that answer. Melina, do you have any additional input?
Yeah, I think it would be preferred. Also, if it's not a requirement for Indiana DNR, because we put all the list at the same level. That's what you said, Aaron, on the DNR requirement, which is not what they have on their website. We can double check with them, and I think if we put all of them on the same level of requirement, it's because the city preferred to have all of them. But if Indiana DNR is not required, we might discuss that.
Okay.
We can put a more formalized answer on our feedback later.
Okay, great. In the inventory realm, and Phil, please speak up if you want. But the maintenance priority and tree use assessment is oftentimes a way of prioritizing. So like they could double dip, and so that that a better understanding in regards specifically those two or three, including the maintenance needs, would be greatly helpful.
Thank you. Phil, go ahead.
Well, thanks for a good summary here. I did read through the RFP, but this has been a really good and helpful summary. I've got a list of questions that I want to clean up a little bit, and I'll submit by the 30th. I'm assuming that the questions asked here today and the ones asked prior to the 30th will get released to everybody, all the people here. Okay, great. That would be really helpful. One question that I do want to ask today, though, to help me give more clarity as I'm thinking this through, is so we've got $49,800 maximum budget for the urban forestry management plan, and then $28,500 for the tree inventory. So we're looking at $78,300 in the aggregate for the program. If a contractor were to be able to propose the urban forestry management plan at a let's just say like significantly lower number than 49,800 and still meet all those requirements, would it be considered to use any of that unused budget to put into more trees in the inventory? So in other words, right now it's just that that third district in Harrison Park, which essentially, as far as I could tell, looks like about 1/6 of the full city, which, to make an urban forestry management plan with an incomplete data set is not uncommon by any means, but 1/6 seems rather low of a sampling. So again, just to restate the question, if one could do an urban forestry management plan to fit those requirements at a much lower budget number than 49,800, would you consider putting more money into more inventory and still stay under the $78,300 total?
So the budget is fixed by the Indiana DNR, and we would have to ask the permission to switch the line in between. We can ask beforehand and put that as a public answer to everyone if the total of the urban forestry management plan and the inventory can be considered as a whole package, knowing that some company will probably bid for only the plan, other for the inventory. Some will be joining to bid together to do both of them. So we'll have all kind of possibilities, and we need to figure out if and how it would be possible. But I think that's a good idea.
Well, thank you. I just, an urban forestry management plan is the more trees you have, the more of a data set you have, the better it'll be. And I'm just trying to see if there's a way we can strike that balance and best utilize the 78,300 to give you the best possible urban forestry management plan and the most possible trees inventoried at the same time.
Thanks for the considerate question. Did you have other questions for today, Phil?
No, I don't. Thank you, though.
Great.
Okay, I got a few more questions. The community engagement specialist, is the role intended to be filled by Delta, by the city, or a third-party vendor? We know
that. So that role will be brought on through Indiana University's Environmental Resilience Institute, and the specialist will be providing supportive resources to the Green Infrastructure Fellow. So you might have maybe limited interaction with the specialist, but yeah, we'll all be working together outreach strategy.
So it sounds like there's going to be like potentially two, the IU engagement specialist and then the GI fellow, right?
Yeah, so the GI fellow is also through the Environmental Resilience Institute, so they'll be working more collaboratively.
Is there any projection as far as what types of interactions or what outreach engagements are anticipated as far as the contractor being involved? Like how many and how are those set up?
The exact number of engagement events is TBD right now, but that will be ironed out once the full project team is on board.
We do expect the bidder to have some community engagements activities in order to do the urban forestry management plan and the inventory and the planting of Harrison Park maybe, but at least if Delta will support, then the community specialist will also be able to support. We are expecting the companies that bid to fully integrate community engagement activity within their proposals.
Okay, that answered a couple of those. Okay. And then as far as you know, since this management plan is a custom plan, you know, you have a lot of engagement, you know, you do have a lot of data, and but the viewpoint of Hammond is really needs to be expressed here. How many draft reviews do you anticipate being part of this plan? Or are there draft reviews anticipated?
I think we haven't specified an exact amount, but I can give it a little bit more thought and put it on paper. But the key thing is I would imagine one or two at least, because of the emphasis on community input that's incorporated in. And as long as there is enough time for review processes in the 12-month period.
Okay. That's all my questions. Sorry. Thank you for entertaining
No
them.
worries.
I've got just a question about questions, actually. What it might have been in the RFP, but what is the process for asking questions before January 30th? Just to email Melina and Jamie, is that all it is?
It's email Helen, actually.
Email Helen, got it. Okay. That's right. I
yes.
think I did see that. Okay, thanks.
No problem. You're also welcome to copy me. And I think I have a slide. Yep, that was my next slide to finish us off. So Phil, if you want to make note of Helen's email there. Again, the deadline for questions is Thursday at 5 p.m. for everyone. And they'll be distributed to everybody in the pool shortly after. I also just wanted to briefly thank our project partners, both the City of Hammond and Indiana University's Environmental Resilience Institute, for the supportive resources, and to note that the project is made possible through the USDA Forest Service, and funding has been provided by the IRA. I also invite you all to connect with Delta Institute in other ways through social media. Check out our website. We have an awesome newsletter as well. And that concludes everything I had for today. I did want to just give one more opportunity for any last minute questions. if you think of any, feel free to email Helen, and we'll get back to you shortly.
All right. Thanks for your time, Jamie, Helen, and Melina. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank
You.
you.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.